Hello, my name is Charnice McPherson, and I recently had the opportunity to facilitate a one-time group session called Voice Your Story Without Shame. This group session took place on November the 13th, a Thursday evening. It lasted for 2 hours. It was held between the hours of 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And it was held in the conference room of our local domestic violence organization. There were 7 women that participated in this group session. I did not have a co-leader facilitating with me. The purpose of this group was to allow and help survivors of domestic violence and family violence reclaim their voice and tell their stories without shame, and also build confidence. The ladies that participated in this group was between the ages of 20s to early 40s. The group dynamics and content and processing of this group took place with me starting out with an introduction and giving the ladies the expectations, which is also known as the norms. I made the women aware that this was a safe place for them to speak and tell their stories, that everything that were told there would be confidential, with no judgment. I welcomed their emotions, and I even encouraged group participation from all of the women. For an icebreaker, I started off with the women giving me and I called it my one word future, where the women would give me one word to describe the future that they wanted for themselves. And this kind of helped the group tone to be set for hope, for them to see themselves past the abuse that they had experienced. I gave psychoeducation, explaining the difference between shame and guilt. And I allowed the women to even reflect on that and engage in that as well. The first exercise that we completed was the lies I started to believe. And during this session, the women was able to share their stories and some things that took place and things that were said to them about their abusers. And this became very emotional for some of the females, as well as it was very supportive, and all of the other females validated each other as they were speaking. The second exercise that we went to was My Voice Matters. And in this session, we broke down into smaller groups of 2 and 3. And the women were able to tell their stories through their own words. And the other women that were in the pairs or in the groups with them would affirm them of their feelings, of the things that they went through. And this allowed them to build connection with each other. We then returned back to the larger group and had some reflection go on in reference to what they experienced and how they felt going through exercises 1 and 2. To end the session, we did takeaways and we did reclaiming statements. Each of the women were able to voice one positive thing that they got out of being at this session. And these things were kind of things like my voice matters, I am important, I am enough. Those things that they can actually voice to themselves, okay? During this session, I was able to share leadership skills from foresight, of active listening, summarizing, linking, encouragement to all of the participants. And I even had to do some redirecting at times. There were also a portion of the session that had a really deep interdependence on the women, where they were actually dependent on each other, because as one woman told their story, the other woman felt better about actually sharing their stories. And then they were able to reflect with each other, giving each other support and confidence, and interacting with each other. And I was able to see that. This was very important for me as a leader to be able to see that coming from them. My self-assessment for this, I would say that I did very well balancing the actual strengths of all of the women, even when there were some situations of emotional, maintaining their emotional safety. I had to redirect one woman when she became a little bit dominant in the conversation, or with her sharing her story. So I was able to direct her respectfully. I also encouraged the women that were quieter and more laid back. I actually encouraged them to speak by just asking them direct questions that they could answer. Some of the challenges that I had during this session was balancing the time, doing the emotional parts, not wanting to make them move on too quickly and that sort of thing. And also feeling nervous doing those emotional parts. What I would do different is I will allow there to be more time for the storytelling part from the participants. I will also incorporate like grounding and regulating strategies for the women, especially when things got a little bit heavy emotionally. But overall, I feel like my leadership approach was definitely guided by Forsyth's group dynamic skills that he gave to us in our course material, especially, the linking and the active listening, redirecting, and even supporting the participants while protecting their emotional safety and encouraging healthy interdependence between the members. Conclusion, we did main takeaways, and my main takeaway from this was that survivors was able to start healing because they was able to speak and use their voices. How I will continue to apply what I've learned. I will continue to improve my redirecting skills, become more comfortable with the silence, because there were times that I felt like it was too quiet and I just asked a question, but really the women was trying to get themselves together. And also being more prepared and flexible during these sessions, I think would really help. Overall, I do feel like survivors want to be heard, seen, and supported, and they need to know that their voice matters. Thank you.